Well, whether it's late night snacking, smoking or having one too many drinks, we all have little habits that we'd like to get rid of. So how do we? Dr Steve Ellen, who is the head of emergency psychiatry at the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, is here to help. Morning, Doc.
G'day.
OK, what is the first step to breaking bad habits?
Well, habits are tricky and everyone has a different approach, but, you know, there's some general simple things that everyone can do to try and make it a bit easier. So probably the first thing you can do is make a decision and actually commit to it. Think about what your habit is and decide, I want to do something about this habit right now.
Yeah, but you can do all that, but it's awfully difficult to give it up. You actually say we need to study the habit. What do you mean by that?
Well, the best way to fight anything is the old saying, know your enemy. Figure out what it is about the habit that you're doing that it feels good for you. Why is it that this habit's good for you? When do you do it? How do you do it? What are the triggers for it? The more you can figure out about the habit, the better prepared you'll be to fight it.
How do you know it's a bad habit? When do you know that picking your nails or pulling your hair goes from being a habit to something damaging?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because there's a whole lot of things we do every day that are good things that you could call habits, like getting up in the morning and cleaning our teeth, for example. Bad habits are those things where you feel they're out of your control and they're not helping you, and in fact they're probably harming you in some way or they're annoying you. Some of them are simple things like, you know, the current one is probably overusing social media. A lot of people are concerned about how much they use it. But then there's a whole lot of other things, you know, like all the mouth picking your lips, chewing pens, that sort of stuff, and they can go on to anything. So it gets out of control. When it gets out of control and starts harming you, you've normally got a bit of an idea. You know, it'll either affect your health or it'll affect other things you do, or people will start commenting on it. And then you start thinking to yourself, OK, maybe this habit's getting a little bit out of control and I need to do something about it.
So what are some of the most common unwanted habits?
Well, you know, everyone's slightly different, and people classify the habits in various ways, but I reckon the common ones are things like nail biting, chewing pens, anything that can, you know, really, anything that can make your health bad, like overeating, eating too much stuff at night, like sweet foods at night. Some people also classify things like gambling as a habit, and of course one of the things we're talking about today because of Dry July, drinking too much alcohol can become a bad habit.
Yeah, well, obviously rewards are important and persistence is important as well, but can you do this on your own? Can you break a bad habit on your own?
Yeah, look, you can, but it's way easier to enlist support. It's way easier to go public. Either put it in writing, or if you are into social media, whack it up on social media. Get your friends on board. And it's especially helpful if you can get some friends to do it with you. And that's especially good for some of the things like giving up drinking, because, you know, drinking is such a social part of our culture that if you can find people who can join you in your battle to break the habit, then you'll find it a lot easier. So that's a really good tip as well.
Right. So in terms of it's fascinating stuff. How can you differentiate between what is a habit and then what then becomes an addiction?
You know, addiction's another one of these broad terms that people probably misuse slightly, but really by definition, we'd say something has become an addiction when it is clearly interfering with your life and in particular your health. So to decide when it's an addiction, when you can't go without a drink, or when you're drinking in such a way that it's causing damage, like binge drinking. Gambling, it's probably when it's starting to affect your relationship and affect your finances. So, you know, the addiction is when it's got out of control to the point that it's affecting you in some harmful way.
Now, can I give you my case in point? My wife will want me to ask you this. I drink heavily. I'm not proud of it, I just do. Or I binge on abstinence. I'm in the middle of a dry time. But my wife says to me, why can't you just have 1 or 2 drinks? I can't. I'm either drinking to excess or I'm completely off it at all. How would I get to that moderation? Because I find it hard to do.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one. You know, alcohol in particular, people have looked at alcohol for years. And if you've gone through a period where you've drunk to excess, where you're really addicted to alcohol, it's very, very hard to go back to moderate drinking. Now, some people achieve it, but we normally say you've got to really give up for a minimum a year, probably 2 years, before you can go back to being a social drinker like everyone else. And that's not only the social aspects of how you've drunk and how you've integrated into your life, it's also the chemical, biological, neurological aspects that once you've got your brain used to that much alcohol, it takes a long time for your brain to get back to the normal level that everyone else has, where you can drink in a social manner.
So which sort of brings us to Dry July, because it's a great opportunity to give up alcohol and do something positive for cancer sufferers at the same time. So it's a really good cause, isn't it?
Yeah, Dry July is a great thing. There's a few of these things now, and I love them because they're an opportunity to give yourself a test to see if you can overcome some of the things in your life that are creeping up to the level of bad habit or even addiction. And so Dry July is about giving up alcohol for a month, really just with a wellness message, with all the funds going to raising cancer. And you can jump onto the website dryjuly.com.au and you can look at any sort of local charities in your area, or if you're interested in supporting it and you haven't got a particular local charity, you can always support the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne that's been part of Dry July for a couple of years now, and it's one of our key fundraisers.
Yeah, you guys do a great job down there. Thank you so much, Doc. Really appreciate
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Some really good tips on breaking bad habits there. We'll put those on our Facebook page. Well, they may be the most expensive